Welcome to the deep dive. Today, you've sent us a really comprehensive set of sources. It's like a blueprint, really, for safety committee meetings in some very high-risk
Yeah,
settings.
we're talking about places with heavy electromechanical equipment, big construction projects, places where things have to be absolutely precise.
And what you shared, it's not just a list of rules. It feels more like an operating system for turning, simple compliance into a genuine safety culture.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So I think our mission here is to crack this structure open and pull out the specific mechanics, the why behind the how, what makes these meetings actually work and not just, a mandatory chore.
Exactly. Because for so many places, that safety meeting is the fork in the road. It's where safety either really thrives or it just becomes a box-ticking exercise.
Mm.
So why are these superstructured sessions so foundational in environments with, say, high voltage and massive machinery?
Because the stakes are just, they're immediate, and they
Right.
can be catastrophic. When you're dealing with that kind of equipment, any system that isn't highly organized is basically an accident waiting to happen.
Right.
So these meetings, they become the organizational backbone of safety. They're the defense mechanism that protects lives, prevents really expensive downtime, and honestly shields the whole organization from some devastating legal liabilities.
Okay, so let's unpack the engine of this backbone, the mechanics of the meeting itself. I was struck by the rhythm of it all. The standards you sent mandate a very specific cadence.
They do. And that monthly meeting, that's just the baseline. It's there to ensure there's consistent oversight.
But it's more than that.
Oh, much more.
Yeah.
The real rigor comes from the built-in flexibility. The protocols say that extra sessions must happen right after a serious incident or whenever a big project change happens that, alters the risk profile.
So safety can't just wait for the next calendar invite.
Exactly. It can't. The ground can shift under your feet at any moment.
And it seems like success starts way before anyone even walks into the room. This focus on pre-meeting prep is really clear.
Absolutely. The agenda has to be circulated, 3 to 5 days ahead? Department heads submit their reports. And this is critical. They do a rigorous review of action items from the last meeting.
That seems to be the key, that review.
It's the single most important piece for accountability. It just removes all the ambiguity. What did we promise to do? Did the budget get approved? Was the training actually completed? You can't just move on until last month's promises are fulfilled.
So once the meeting starts, and the standards are strict, 60 to 90 minutes, very efficient, the structure goes way beyond a typical business review. What's on the agenda?
Well, after the formalities, they dive straight into the evidence. They require detailed incident investigation reports, a real analysis of what happened.
So data.
All data. They review safety performance indicators, the leading and lagging stats that show the trends, and they spend a lot of time looking forward, discussing upcoming work, and proactively flagging the hazards. The whole point is to get ahead of the risks.
Before they become live threats.
Precisely.
And the documentation for all this it's meticulous. The rules say minutes have to be recorded accurately, signed by the chair and secretary, and then this part really stood out, circulated to all stakeholders within 48 hours.
Yep.
Why that 48-hour window? Is that just a legal requirement?
It's so much more than compliance. That 48-hour rule, it creates a kind of rapid psychological closure.
What do you mean by that?
It means decisions don't just hang in the air for a month. If a stop work was ordered or a budget was approved, that urgency gets reinforced by the immediate formal paperwork. It tells everyone that these decisions are actionable now. They can't be put off.
That's a powerful distinction. Okay, so if the structure is the engine, we need to talk about the people driving it. This brings us to the roles, because the material makes it very clear that safety is genuinely everyone's job.
Yes, and what's so compelling is how that responsibility is built in, from the top all the way down, and then right back up from the bottom.
So let's start at the top. The committee chairperson, usually someone from senior management.
Right. And their role isn't just to, run the meeting. It's to visibly commit. They have to make the final decisions on safety matters and, maybe most importantly, allocate the resources.
The money.
The money, the people, the time needed for improvement.
Yeah.
If the chairperson doesn't sign off on the spending, the whole system just grinds to a halt.
So they have the authority and the checkbook. Then you've got the safety officer or manager, the technical backbone.
Exactly. They're the logistics expert. They prep the stats, they interpret the data, and they do the really hard work of tracking every single action item from the meeting. They turn all that data into concrete tasks.
And then the department heads. They're the ones who have to make this real on the shop floor.
They're the implementation arm. They can't just forward an email about a new rule. They are held accountable for walking the floor, enforcing decisions, and ensuring compliance in their specific area.
Be it the substation or the fab shop.
Right. If safety fails in their department, it's on them.
And of course, the secretary who keeps the whole administrative machine running, attendance, tracking action items, getting those 48-hour minutes out.
All crucial. But
Mm.
if you really want to know where the cultural insight comes from, you have to look at the ground level voice.
The worker representatives.
Yes, they bring a perspective that management simply cannot have. They're the ones on the tools.
They're the ones reporting unsafe conditions that maybe have become normalized over time.
Exactly. Or voicing concerns about a process that looks great on paper, but is a nightmare in practice. This is where real safety culture starts.
But for that to work, they have to feel safe speaking up.
That is the entire ballgame. The structure has to guarantee they can speak freely, with zero fear of retaliation. If workers think reporting a near miss will just bring management down on them, the whole system collapses.
Because the most valuable intelligence, the frontline risk data, it just dries up.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Empowering that voice is a direct measure of trust.
So that trust is built on what the committee actually looks at. Once those 5 players are in place, the audit checklist gives them a framework for observation that's about more than just checking boxes.
It's a proper operational deep dive. It focuses on 4 key areas. They start with the obvious one: physical conditions.
Things like, are the machine guards adequate? Is the fire safety equipment accessible and working?
Yes, and crucially in these settings, confirming proper earthing in all the electrical systems.
And for anyone listening, when we say earthing, we mean making sure there's a safe path for electrical current to go into the ground. It prevents equipment damage, and more importantly, it saves lives from electric shock.
It absolutely does. But the blueprint is clear that real safety means looking beyond the hardware. You have to look at behavior.
Which brings us to behavioral observations.
Yeah.
This is where you measure the human element. Wow.
What are they tracking? Well, clear compliance with PPE usage is foundational. But the most insightful metric, I think, is the health of the near-miss reporting culture.
A near miss being a close call, something that could have caused an injury but didn't.
Right.
So if a committee sees a lot of near miss reports, that's not necessarily a bad sign.
It's often the opposite. High near-miss reporting can indicate high trust. It means people are documenting close calls so the system failures could be fixed before a tragedy.
So they're also looking for things like worker fatigue or how well contractors are being supervised.
Absolutely. Making sure temporary staff are held to the same standards.
Okay, so beyond behavior, they monitor the systems themselves, system observations. This is about making sure critical processes are followed every single time.
The focus here is on the non-negotiables. They check the permit to work system, making sure dangerous work is only authorized when it's safe. And critically, they monitor strict adherence to lockout, tag out, LOTO.
And for you listening, LOTO is the procedure used to ensure equipment is completely de-energized, preventing it from starting up by accident while someone's working on it. A failure here can be instantly fatal.
It is the absolute last line of defense. Adherence is non-negotiable, and the audit has to confirm that the procedures are being used and checked constantly.
Finally, all of this has to line up with the outside world. The blueprint demands strict statutory compliance.
Right, like OSHA in the U.S., or the Factories Act in other places, and standards like ISO 45001.
ISO 45001, that's the global standard for occupational health and safety, right?
It is, and it's not just a rule book, it's a framework. It demands a systemic, continuous approach to managing risk, which means you need meticulous records.
Sure.
Training certificates, attendance logs, audit reports, everything has to be in order to prove due diligence was actually performed.
So we have the people, we have the metrics, now the response. From incident to prevention. Once a problem is found, the action has to be structured and time-bound.
Yes, the protocols create a triage system, basically. It organizes the response based on how urgent and how big the problem is.
Starting with immediate actions.
These are the critical, sirens blaring responses. A stop work order for an imminent danger. Throwing up temporary barriers around a spill. Getting a worker new PPE because theirs just failed. These are fixes for something that could happen in the next 5 minutes.
Got it. Then short-term fixes. The timeline here is usually within a week.
Right. This is for minor but important stuff. Replacing a damaged warning sign, a quick electrical repair that doesn't need a total redesign, you're clearing up the immediate visible hazards.
Then we step up in complexity to medium-term actions, 1 to 4 weeks.
Now you're getting into systemic issues that need some planning. This could be installing smaller engineering controls, like a new ventilation system, or revising a specific work procedure for one department.
And finally, the biggest category, long-term rectifications. 1 to 3 months, sometimes even longer.
This is where real cultural and infrastructure change happens. We're talking about major equipment replacement, new grounding systems for an entire facility, or complete overhaul of a company-wide procedure. This is the heavy investment. This is what tackles the deep root causes.
Which brings us perfectly to the final piece of the puzzle, root cause analysis. It's not enough to just fix the thing that broke.
Not at all. The whole system is pointless if you only treat the symptoms. If you replace a broken machine guard, that's a short-term fix, but you never ask why the worker bypassed it in the first place.
The root cause.
You solve nothing. True prevention has to attack those underlying systemic problems, and then you have to share those lessons across the whole organization so it doesn't happen somewhere else.
So when you put it all together, what does this blueprint really tell us? These meetings, they aren't just for compliance. They are these incredibly well-designed mechanisms for consistency. They're driven by evidence, and they are sustained by visible, real leadership.
The end goal is pretty clear: to get away from reactive firefighting and build a proactive safety culture, one that doesn't just check the boxes, but actually contributes to the success and stability of the entire project. Safety becomes a core operational function, not an afterthought.
And that leads us to our final thought for you, our listener. We've seen that the best safety committees focus on those long-term rectifications, the big cultural and infrastructure changes. So here's the question. If a committee consistently focuses only on immediate and short-term fixes, like replacing PPE or a sign, but they always avoid the bigger investment in those long-term changes, what is the inevitable outcome for that site's safety record? And thinking about your own world, your own project, which piece of this structured approach, the 40-hour documentation rule empowering worker reps, or the mandatory focus on root cause analysis, would you implement first to really start driving that cultural change?
Something to think about as you work to build safety into your own operations.
We'll see you next time for the next deep dive.